no matter where you go. But if you suck at making friends in America, you're not going to all of a sudden become great at making friends on the continent. It's still going to be a challenge for you.
It's going to be hard.
But then getting out of your comfort zone and understanding that there's no room for pride. If you need help, you have to ask for help. And quite often the local folks who you don't think really want to roll with you like that, those are going to be the ones that are going to come to your rescue. You know, it's just a matter of just understanding you can't just open the tent to everybody at once, but then you just have to vet people and you treat people how they treat you. And if they see that you're real, right?
Hi guys, welcome to Kenganda. My name is Johnny Tamaya and this is the REPAT podcast. I'll let these handsome men tell you who they are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Maintain DJ and producer, living in Kampala now for 5 years, born in London to Caribbean parents. And for all the people in the comments, I'm not Jamaican. My dad was born in Dominica and my mum is from St. Kitts and Nevis, just to put that to bed.
You do look Jamaican.
I do.
Yeah.
Probably growing up in Harlesden, London, and the Jamaican culture rubbed off on me.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Grafton Gregory, or Gregory Grafton, whichever way you want to go. African-American, co-founder of Value Farm. Been living in Uganda now for almost 2 years.
Yeah. Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome. Debut.
Karibuni sana. Okay, it's your boy Master Gabs. Agaba Tumsime on my passport. Gabs to the ones who love me. Master Gabs to my fans and followers. Check me out on Instagram on all the major platforms. But yeah, man, I'm a Ugandan by heritage, American born. I am a hustler, farmer, entrepreneur. So I'm really excited to talk to this brother. I learned a lot about Value Farm and what you've got going on, man. It's a pleasure to meet you, man.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Let's give him a bring it up, man. Yeah, we really appreciate Master Gabs around here, man. You know, we got for sure. Yeah, one more time.
Yeah. Let's show you some love.
Get a brother some attention here, okay? O'Shea Duke Jackson, African American, Sacramento, California.
Okay. O'Shea, take it away.
All right, so we wanted to bring this particular podcast together because we are all Western repats, if you will, or have experience living in the diaspora. We now live here. So we wanted for those of you who watch our channel to want to know why we came here or returned back here in comparisons to maybe West Africa. We know Ghana's hot. So we'll use that as probably a template because most of us have, except for Agaba, West African ancestry. So we're going to try to talk about some of the challenges, things that we have here, stuff like that. So I guess I could start with you, Mr. Richman.
Oh my gosh. So guys, initially, just to give you guys some background on us, initially when I was considering moving to the continent, the first place I looked at was West Africa. I considered moving to Ghana. I also considered, parts of South Africa, Botswana, was some of the places that I really, really looked into. And ironically enough, I found this channel. And I told O'Shea this off camera a while ago. And when I found this channel, for some reason, I started to look deeper into East Africa. As I was doing my research, and I actually been to Ghana, didn't spend much time there. I have several friends that live in Ghana. But then what was important to me, because I wanted to get into the agro space itself, land acquisition in Ghana was something that really, 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 had me a bit nervous because I've heard some of the stories, people buying their land. The opportunity in Uganda, I felt would be a more seamless transition. Granted, culturally, there are a lot of other benefits to being out west. The food, the people, the culture itself is more familiar to me on that side. But then from a business standpoint, from a financial standpoint, it was definitely a smarter decision to come here because number one, I found a great partner on the ground, Tina. Shout outs to Tina. She's not here, but I'm sure she'll be watching. But then the people, in terms of within the agricultural space, it was just a seamless transition because, wanting to actually own land. There were some stipulations that I didn't know about. I was working with a certain company that was not 100% forthright, which they shall remain nameless. But when I got to the ground, I very quickly learned, as long as you have a Ugandan as your partner, you don't necessarily just need to lease land. Your company can actually acquire land as long as you have a Ugandan partner. So it was just a no-brainer. And I actually have friends and colleagues of mine who are in Ghana who actually got scammed big time purchasing land in Ghana. So for that reason, it was a no-brainer for us on this side.
Wow. Okay.
How long ago did you decide to make that move?
Oh, wow. I started looking into it back in the winter of 2019, 2020, back in New York City. For those of you, I'm originally from New York. I relocated to Arizona because I was working with JP Morgan at the time. And I escaped the New York weather because it was just too cold, too much snow. I wanted to do something different. But I started researching Africa, I would say almost like 6-7 years ago. So for those of you that are considering making the change, making the move, you're not moving from Texas to Utah. You're literally leaving your old life behind. And it's a real shock to the system. But if you have the right network of people around you, proper planning, I think, to me, this is the new frontier. Many people think, when you leave the U.S., a lot of folks are going to Portugal. A lot of folks are migrating to Mexico. But if you want to make it in agriculture, particularly those of us who are not ready to retire, who are still actively looking to, I would say, expand our portfolio, right, based on your career path, for me, this was a no-brainer, especially when I understood the growth, the population trajectory of East Africa, particularly Uganda. The stat that did it for me was the fact that I realized in 10 years, Uganda is slated to have a population of at least 75 million, up to 80 million people. And with those numbers, if you're in agriculture or real estate, you just can't lose. You just have to make sure that you find your right lane and stay vigilant and just be a professional about your business, and all the odds are really in your favor.
Okay.
I'm learning today. I'm learning. Yeah, my story is a little different. Spoke about it on previous episodes, but I'll go again very briefly. So I moved here. Initially just signed a 2-year contract. I didn't really have much in the way of plans of, land or real estate, etc. But after my 2 years were up, actually even before the 2 years were up, I re-signed again for another 2 years because, like yourself, I saw so much potential here and it changed my mindset. And I definitely want to look into opening like a bar/restaurant, serves Caribbean food, and just keep the music and the production going. And I never saw that for me in London, but when I came here, it just changed my opinion, totally, completely. And I was only really gonna do the 2-year contract, almost like, yeah, I've done it. I love the experience. Now it's time to go back to London. A year into living here, I was like, no, I've got to explore this deeper.
Right.
And that's where I'm at right now. Yeah, 5 years down the line.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. My
Gabs?
turn?
Yeah.
All right.
Scotland, you should be talking as well.
So my story is different primarily because my family heritage is of Uganda. I visited Uganda many times. I was born and raised in the Washington, D.C. area, and I visited Uganda many times while I was growing up, but never once, not a single time did I ever think that I would be living here permanently. It wasn't until I finished my undergraduate degree and my folks were in need of my help to kind of stabilize the situation with, my mom's health was impacting her ability to work within a business that she had started. So my dad said, listen, Gabs, come over. spend a couple of years, help your mom out, help me out. And then after that time, go back to the States, study for your master's, and then let your career take off from there. So sure enough, that's what I did. Came here, and I got bitten by the entrepreneurial bug.
Mm-hmm.
I was working in the restaurant business, running a small cafe / bar that we had built downtown, not downtown like Chikubo downtown, but like Central Business District downtown in a nice corporate zone. And so through that experience, I learned a passion for entrepreneurship. Through that experience, I learned a passion for building something and growing it and seeing the fruit of your hard work and sweat turn into something that not only benefits yourself and your family, but I had never been somebody's boss before. I had never been responsible for helping people achieve their own personal goals and improving their own livelihood and their lot in life. And so through all of that, I decided that, after I finished my master's degree, later down the line, after I've exhausted my experience in corporate America, saved a ton of money, I'll come back. Yeah. When? I didn't know. I said, let me put a pin in that and I'll come back. Sure enough, I finished my MBA, did the whole corporate America thing, made some really good money, but then I just became disenchanted with the whole experience. The whole idea of living to pay bills, working just to get ahead in a system that is built for you not to get ahead. The credit trap, paying car notes and mortgages and insurance. And let me tell you something. The amount of bills that the average American pays is ridiculous. I'm talking about like thousands of dollars of bills every month. And so I was like, you know what? I kept on telling myself, this is some bullshit. If I was in Uganda, do you know what I'd be doing right now? Right. If I was in Uganda, do you know what I'd be doing right now? And I told person after person after person that till it came to a point where I was like, let me just stop saying it and do it. So in March of 2011, I bought a one-way ticket, jumped on a flight, and I came back. And I've been here ever since, hustling it out, grinding, making a life for myself. And I don't regret anything. Yeah.
That's really good.
I guess it's my turn. It's kind of hard to beat that one, right?
But O'Shea, before you...
Yeah, sure.
Sorry to interrupt you. I want to ask Jonita a question. So, you're a landowner. You are. So how did you go about that? Like acquiring the land, the steps you took and the location you chose? Like what were the factors that made you come to these decisions?
Rich!
Well, that's a long that's a long story, and I can't get into specifics on this this episode and whatnot. But it was, I don't know, I just wanted to give myself something for my birthday. And I'd wanted land, so I told myself I'll get myself land for my birthday and whatnot, and just the whole thing. I got in touch with the right people. The location, I happen to know the landowner. I went to school with him. Okay. So I just said, you know what, I'll buy land from you. I know you. But he turned out to be trash. Oh. If I had money, I would take you to court. But here we are. Sorry. But what I want to say is, it's a long process, guys. But I don't think I want to get into it on this podcast.
Okay, no. Okay.
But just set your mind onto something and find the right people, and then you can get land. But yeah, let O'Shea say something, then I'll
okay, thank you.
So, initially, I was talking to a good friend of mine from Sacramento. You guys might know who he is. Search for a Huru YouTube channel, Dinah Samir. So we were both from the same city, went to the same high school, although we didn't really know each other directly so much. But I knew of him. He was one of the best running backs in the state. So he reached out to me, and he was doing the Africa thing. I was kind of interested in neo-colonial history. Like I knew about Milton Obote, I knew about these people. But as far as me taking a trip, and I was living in Poland at the time, so he was talking about what he was doing, his YouTube channel. We started collaborating because we knew each other. And so my first thing to do was our people, and I'm talking about our people, I'm meaning the African Americans, because that was my mindset at the time. African Americans are in Ghana, so this is where I need to go. So that was the easiest way to go. But it just so happened that the Ghanaian embassy was not in Poland, it was in Germany. So that was out. And the Nigerian embassy was in Warsaw, but it was very complicated. And we had some problems even here. Me and Rachel went to Nigeria, so it was like bank statement. You needed a letter from somebody that lived in Nigeria. So make a long story short, Uganda at that particular time, I think they still do, but it was just, you come to the airport and visa on demand, or what do you call it? Visa at the entry.
Mm-hmm. Visa on arrival.
Visa on arrival. So I had, I came, and then the first few days I didn't like it. But your sister was the first person that showed me around Uganda. So then after that, I was like, well, I'm gonna come back. And after the second time, I came back, I felt like, wow, this is February 2018 was the second time I came back. So I found myself thinking about Uganda when I went back to Europe, like all the time. I was like, I hated it at first, but I was dying to get back. Once I came back, I said, okay, I want to be here all the time, or at least for the rest of my life. I just kind of felt that way about the place. I can't explain it. Now after that, it was, how do you support yourself here? Now I was a pretty known YouTuber, but like living here, I wanted to have this channel, which was the idea for King Gun that came in 2018. But then there was nobody that knew the business here. So Joan came a year after that. We struggled for a hell of a long time. We had people that we blew up. We had somebody that died, Kim the Comic. So it was just a lot of ups and downs. But when I look at Ghana, and then I'm just say this very shortly, everybody kept telling me, leave Uganda, you're wasting your time. Go to Nigeria, go to Ghana, because you'll be more appreciated there. And I can't say that they're probably wrong, right? But in what we're doing. But I will say that staying here, because there was even Kenya was in the picture, but staying here has really taught me a lot. I love my decision to be here. I've learned a whole lot, and I think that in comparisons to what I see in West Africa, although Uganda is not as I've never been to Ghana, but maybe not as developed. I think that the price point to do things here is better than maybe what you would get in West Africa, and then the opportunity is that for somebody who is a builder. If that's what you know how to do, this is a great place to be. And when I see people in Ghana, I see a lot of people struggling. I see a lot of people that are misinformed. And so they get there based off of the hype. Whereas Uganda don't have that hype now. We're not using celebrities to say, come here, come visit Uganda. And I'm glad that's not happening. So you have a lot more failures in Ghana than I think here in that capacity. I think Uganda is good because I think the people that are leading in charge were telling people the truth. Like, it's going to be hard. It's not easy. You should definitely visit first. And to be fair, people are saying that over there. But you need to visit first, and then you're going to need some skills that you can work on in the States. And, you need to be able to say, if you want to come to Uganda, can you live for the rest of your life? If you can't do that, you probably shouldn't come and want to live here. But if you feel like you can do that, this is a great place because we're still learning every day. I'm learning every day still. So that's my quick story.
Yeah. I'll just say something before and if you say something. I've been to Accra, and I've also, I'm a Ugandan living in Uganda. And when I compare the two, I can say Accra is cheaper. Do you agree?
It's based on where you are and how long you're staying. So if you're there for a short period of time, you can definitely splurge.
Yeah.
But if you're living, and certain things cost way more there than here. Example, if you renting in Accra, you can't just, let me give you an example where we are. When I moved into my place, I only had to pay for like 3 months.
Yeah.
But if you're an American or just a foreigner moving to Ghana, they're trying to hit you for that rent for a year.
Yeah, but they do that to the nationals too.
They do. Yeah. But now it's even worse because they don't want the local CD. They want USD.
Yeah.
So if you're just visiting, you're staying in an Airbnb, you're staying in a hotel, then it's cute, when you first get there. But no, I think longer term, Ghana's always going to cost you more.
Right.
Unless you go further out.
Yeah.
Then it's comparable.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, for my case, to me, Accra is cheaper because even the rent thing, I feel like if you pay for a year, it's cheaper than paying per month.
It's possible.
Because when you compare it in the long run, you're paying more as a Ugandan to rent here than someone in Accra who's paying for a year. It's a lot at once.
What I can tell you, which is if we're all into trivia, you can win a lot of money with this information here.
Oh.
Most people think Uganda is a cheaper place in terms of investing in real estate. But land in Uganda costs far more money than most other places, including Ghana.
Yeah.
Based on where you located, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even Kenya, if you're in Nairobi, land there, it's gonna cost you. But then if you compare some of the places in Nairobi versus Kololo versus parts of Muyanga, like you paying US money for land here to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you decide to go further out. So
yeah. Oh, that's good
Well, because
information.
Accra is one of the most expensive cities, pound for pound, in the world.
Yeah.
it is now. It
That's
is.
now, I think it's because the diaspora, they're blaming them. But and I don't know. I would also say that because this Uganda is more virgin, you have a lot of people that are there because of the hype.
Yeah.
So, but again, I think that Uganda, from what I can tell, gives you more opportunity.
Yeah. So
than there.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. So when I went to Accra, being in both countries, I've seen that I feel like Uganda has more opportunities. It's like it's a new emerging industry. Like there are more things upcoming. People are just starting out certain things. There's so many gaps. There's so many opportunities for you to do so much. Unlike Accra, where I feel like everything has been done. They're innovative, they're creative, they've done everything to the max. Whereas in Uganda, it's more like, people are just starting something. So if you can come in and add on to that, then this would be the place for you in terms of, development, investing and whatnot. Yeah.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I 100% agree with you there because as someone who is still new to Uganda, right? There are certain industries coming from the West. Let me give you guys a perfect example, right? If I was still living in Arizona or New York City, and if I were to call my brother Jeffrey and say, hey, I want to start a business, I'm interested in opening a travel agency, he would look at me as if I had 10 heads. But here in Uganda, you can still open a travel agency because people still do things in the traditional way. Not everyone, but most people, even with me, when it was time for me to go back home to the US, I attempted to book my flight on delta.com and they took that charge off my card 3 times. And in the end, I had to actually walk into the Delta office in Kampala for them to actually do the transaction for me, right?
Happens a lot.
So ultimately, that's just one example. Even industries back home that you would typically think that are no longer even worth the investment because it's overdone, it's over, like there's no future in it. You still have a 15 to 20 year run here in Uganda. So the opportunities are far greater, but it takes the right person. If you're the type of individual who's always rely on your W-2, for those who don't know, that's if you work for someone and you've never ran a business, you've never been an entrepreneur, or you don't have that mindset. Because to be in the space, to come here, even Gabs, like what he's doing here, right? As a group, you and us, though you a DJ, you are an independent contractor. You still work for yourself for the most part. Yeah. But if you don't have that mindset to be uncomfortable with being uncomfortable, because typically most of our brothers and sisters from that side, they just want to get that paycheck and that security blanket every 2 weeks, right? Not very many people are willing to walk away from $100,000 a year position to start a new business. Not many people are willing to walk away from a $60,000 a year to just start something where there's no guarantee. I think the promise in Uganda is far understated than most people realize, because when you come here, the sectors are wide open. Whether you want to do stuff in real estate development. I was just talking to Gavs off camera before this, right? Since I've been here, I've seen the opportunities in real estate development, construction, just to name a few. So if you're someone who has real discipline, and that's the key component, you can't be someone who is easily distracted, right? You can't come here and see 100 different opportunities and want to pursue everything. You got to know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and then make the decision to choose one, perfect it first, and then you can start adding to your portfolio for a more balanced approach to what you do. But as far as there's no comparison between here and going to Ghana, because in Ghana, what you can accomplish here with $5,000, you might need $100,000 to do it there in business. Yeah. So I guess UG1.
Yeah.
The West is still up for debate.
Yeah.
What do you think about
UG1?
I have so many friends, people that I grew up with in the Ugandan, Rwandan community who still live in the US, who are apprehensive about coming back home to Africa. And they've kind of used my journey and my example and my story as kind of like a guinea pig, a test case, so to speak, a proof of concept. If Gabs can go there and do it, then that gives me confidence to know that the risk in me doing it is a lot more acceptable. To the point where you were mentioning that things in Uganda develop at a rate that is, a few years behind the rest of the world. I truly believe that Uganda, East Africa, Kenya and Rwanda and, Tanzania, for the most part, our East African compatriots here, things are moving differently over there, right? You can see that there's a distinct difference between Kampala and Kigali or Kampala and Nairobi. The size of the economies, the way that the government embraces their role in development and all of that. But what I'll say is this. You have a real opportunity to come here if you're determined, intelligent, and you have the right work ethic to create exponential wealth for yourself in a way that can't be achieved relying upon your W-2, relying upon your 401k. You can't achieve the type of wealth creation in the United States unless you own the company that you're working for, unless you own the business that you're working in. As long as you're somebody else's employee, you can consider that an impossibility.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. And you're just going to continue to be in that realm of working hard to pay your bills, and you're enriching somebody else. Because trust me, there's somebody out there who's exponentially benefiting off of the hard work that you put in. So for me, that whole conversation around, do you know what I would be doing if I was in Uganda right now, was about me sitting down, working 40 plus hours a week, 50, 60 hours a week for a corporation that I didn't even own a damn share to be proud of. I was getting paid enough to handle my bills and take care of my core responsibilities, but I didn't feel like it was worth the amount of stress and pressure and pain that I was going through. So to come here to UG and have the opportunity to invest in yourself, take a bet on yourself, it's something that cannot be discounted. It cannot be underestimated. And I think for those of us like Greg and O'Shea and Maintain who have come and found a life in UG that was great beyond what you even anticipated. It comes down to having a vision, having the ambition to believe that you can, but more importantly, you have to plan the work and work the plan. Don't get distracted. Don't get caught up in the fuckery of what happens around here. A lot of people can make you feel like you're bigger than what you are. Prematurely. A lot of people can talk to you in a way that massages your ego and makes you feel as though, I've made it already and I haven't even really done shit.
Right.
And therefore you slow down, you take your foot off the gas pedal a little bit and you allow yourself to start underestimating the circumstances around you as opposed to really staying laser focused on the work ethic that is going to be required to get done what you need to achieve your goals. So, that's the biggest lesson that I learned is, yes, things move at a different pace here. Yes, people are a lot more laid back here. So when you arrive, you may think that I'm smarter than, or I'm more capable than, or I'm in a better position to succeed than. But no. Trust me. If you're not locked in and if you're not laser focused on your goals, it doesn't matter where you're coming from and it doesn't matter where you land. Failure is failure. If you go out of your way to make the wrong decisions, you're going to fail. But if you embrace the opportunity and you lock yourself into, delayed gratification is going to be my lifestyle. For these next 5 years, I'm going to work and I'm going to hustle and I'm going to grind and I'm going to do what I have to do in order to be able to get where I want to go. Then things can work out for you. I mean, O'Shea, I have a lot of respect for you in the way that you've built your business, man. The team that you have around you, the sacrifices that I see you making in the name of investing in your people. I think it's very admirable because if you were switched on in a different way, you could take what you're doing and use it to benefit yourself and only yourself in a way that wouldn't be sustainable for the long term. So I just really appreciate what I'm seeing. And that's part of the reason why I gravitated toward this whole Kanganda family when I was finally permitted to
That's another story.
When I was finally,
I was neutralizing the brother for a minute, but
when I was finally invited to come in and see it from a firsthand perspective, no, but I get why you're protective of it. I get why you discriminate very closely who you invite into this, because this is not for everybody.
Right.
This is not for everybody. And if you know, you know. But if you're one of those people who just happens to be out for self, then yeah, you could come in and fuck up this entire dynamic. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that and appreciate you for, living that spirit, because I think that's very important for everybody to carry in your effort to come here,
right, to
East Africa or wherever on the continent and set up a life and a business for yourself. You have to have that mentality. Otherwise, don't even waste your time.
No.
Well, before I ask everybody a question, I'm gonna give his brother a raise there. But I just want to say this to your part. What I noticed is, number one, a lot of us as Americans, even in the Black community, we're not like the community of before. Like my grandfather, great grandfather, people were, you have Black businesses and things like that. So Black people in America don't really need each other.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll come together and have sex and drink and go to church, and after that, for the most part, look, maintain over, everybody get mad. But we're employed by the JP Morgans of the world, the IBMs, the Intels, or whoever. And so you don't like the way we're responding to you in America might be different because I don't really need you in America. But now in Africa, in Uganda, I quickly found out. I don't know how to negotiate. I don't know where anything is. I don't know. The Google doesn't work here for what I'm needing. So I quickly had to find out, I need to build the community around myself. And then also I have to pick my battles when certain things go down. That's a whole other story, that I don't need to get mad if I got scammed, or whatever. Certain things are not worth fighting over or getting into it. But again, that whole building the community, and I'm glad you said that about me. I'm really thankful. But that's the attitude you need to have. You need to get more people around you, because we don't have a lot of us here. So we need to work with people in the Ugandan community. We need to work with people in the diasporan community, because that's how you get things. Some people figure things out more than you. Most of us feel like we're going to be able to get rich by yourself, which is the dumbest thing that anybody has ever said. What's that saying, 50 Cent? Get rich or die trying, or something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense. But even that guy has help. Beyonce has help. Jay-Z has help. So when you come to Uganda, you have to have help. You can't do anything by yourself. So I don't know about the Ghana community. I know they're more organized with the diasporans. But one of the things you need to come here, when you come in here, you need to know, number one, do you like it here? That's first and foremost. Before you decide you want to spend any money, do you like it? Could you live here? All right. And then if you could live here, then what do you want to do here? And then take some time to know, okay, this is how it works. I need to pick up these skills. Maybe not the person that works well with people. A lot of you guys probably are not. You're probably terrible. That's a skill you need to pick up, because let's say, for example, you move to Kampala and you're in the diaspora, and then you piss people off in the community, and then now they won't work with you now. That could happen with, you're lying, not paying people back on time, shit like that. So you need to be able to, can you work with people? Can you step outside of your box? Because it's not like in America where I moved to Houston and I don't really need to interact with anybody because it's still America. Whereas here, you have to interact with people. Even Maintain is trying to force me to get out and go to places. I don't always. Yeah, I'm not even an extrovert like that, but I'm forcing myself to all right, I need to go out. Let me go out to Thrones or something. But I just want to ask you brothers, what are some of the challenges that you need to overcome? Especially, let's say, for somebody not like Gaz, even though he can communicate this also. But if you're somebody, you've never been here, we have one brother here. Shout out to brother, what's his brothers here from Texas? Brandon and Reggie. Yeah, Reggie. This is his first time ever coming to Africa, ever. He loves it. But what are some of the challenges would you would say that that you have here when you first got here? And what about somebody that's coming from, they've never been here before, they're not Ugandan, and they would like to resettle here? What are some of the challenges that they would face, in your opinion?
I can start that one if you want. Well, you've been here way longer than me. Gabs is basically, 11 years. I'm still technically the rookie. I would say the biggest challenge for me when I first came, I could see now in retrospect, if I didn't have Tina and if I didn't have Dr. Yassine when I first came here, it would have been far more challenging initially because there's definitely a language barrier once you leave Kampala for the field that I decided to go into, right? Now, for many of us, when we come here, we're always gravitated towards Kampala for the first 6 months to a year.
Right.
And then as people get more comfortable, then they start to spread their wings and they'll go to Kabale and, Fort Porto. And there's other parts of this country that's exceedingly beautiful that most people don't even think about. Everybody just want to just stay close to the mothership in Kampala. But the biggest challenge for me, or I can perceive it to being for almost everyone that's going to move here, if you do make that decision, is number one, community, right? Where do you connect with other folks who are from the diaspora, but that are willing to step out of the bubble? Because that's also a danger here. When you come here, if you have everybody from either Texas, New York, or wherever, and we hear, this is not America, right? I think humility, being able to humble yourself on a different land, different continent, learning to do things differently the way we're so accustomed to doing it back home, I think is going to be the biggest challenge for most people, because where I lived in Orlando, even during the worst hurricane season, we've never lost power. And I mean, the place I live there now, well, my home there, 7 years, power never went out. But then where I live now in Kampala, we lose power, I would say, at least once a week, but we do have backup generators, thank God for that. Right? But for you who are not accustomed to these little things, that we're just so comfortable being in our cocoon, being in the AC all the time, walking into a supermarket, going into one supermarket, like either Whole Foods or, any of the big brands back home, and just being able to find everything in one space.
Hello.
These are the luxuries that you're just going to have to get used to not having. But the beauty in being here is discovering where you can carve out different niche and different pockets for yourself. Because I can see, for me as a parent, though I have a really cool spot back in the States, but I think my son would be far happier here than living in Orlando, Florida. Because, even when you go, whether you're in the village, I think the paradigm shift in my mind was the first obstacle I had to overcome. Because before, when we used to drive through the village, you would see kids, playing in the dirt, not in the best financial situation. And your first inclination is to feel sorry for that kid. But in reality, they might not have the money, but they have the luxury of innocence, which we don't have at home. You understand? Because even me, when I first moved to the States, like, I spent time in Europe. When I officially moved to New York City, we lived in Manhattan. Then we moved to Brooklyn. My first summer in Brooklyn when I was 10, my mom was so scared to let me go outside to play. I didn't even see the outdoors unless we were going to the library or we were going grocery shopping. But then here in Uganda, a kid still has a chance to be a kid, And one thing I really want to just touch real quick, you're a fairly young lady, right? You don't even realize the fact that the statement you made about for your birthday, just buying land.
Yeah.
In the US, there are people who are in their 40s and 50s. What you have, yes, it's land, but it's also considered to be real estate.
Right.
It's asset, right? There are so many people in America that will work until they're 60 to 70 years old that will never understand the joy of owning a piece of land or own the actual house that they live in until they die. That's the luxury here that most people just don't recognize. And so that's the opportunity. And that's also, what are you willing to give up to get to something that can change the dynamic and the outlook of your entire family's outcome in life? And if it takes coming to Uganda, some of you should make that sacrifice. And I don't think it's that big of a sacrifice.
Word up.
Wow. Wow.
What an episode.
Wow, indeed.
What an episode. For me, it was the adjustment. So my adjustment is sort of like, not sort of, it is like twofold. So when I first came here, it was about experience, being humble, being a sponge, and taking everything in. And literally not being afraid to not know anything. You know what I mean? To not be like as knowledgeable as I was in London about where I'm living. So that was the first, I suppose, phase. Once I decided I wanted to live here for the rest of my days, whether that's I'm in London for 6 months and Uganda for 6 months or Uganda full time, once I made that decision, it was another adjustment because then I had to start looking at things like land, owning a coffee shop or a bar or a restaurant, and not coming from that mindset. Because in London, I was a quantity surveyor in construction, and I DJ'd around that job, and I was earning good money, and I was just happy to just do that lane. But once I got out of that mindset, it was a scary thing. It's like, okay, I haven't got a job to go to. I haven't got a clock to punch. I haven't got somebody navigating like what I need to do during my working day, week, month, year. So to get out of that mindset and believe me being a business owner, landowner is possible, achievable, and I can make a success out of it, was a big, big, big mental shift. But you have to be open. You have to be open to new things, and you have to just really, like you said, focus, laser focus, go for it. And that's where I'm at right now because I've had the luxury of working within the industry I want to be in. I DJ in bars, I DJ in clubs, I DJ in restaurants. So I've spoken to owners, I've spoken to like knowledgeable people, and I believe like I've amassed all this info and I've got all this the clip is loaded, and I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Ready to go.
Oh.
Can I get some free drinks?
Be on the journey.
All the time, brother. All the time. One glass of wine.
He know I ain't gonna show up, so everybody's in. But one day I'm gonna show up.
It's the cheapest dude to get free drink. So for me, I mean, again, like I told you guys earlier, I first came to Uganda when I was fresh out of undergrad. So I was in my early 20s and I was young and arrogant, and I figured I knew everything.
Okay,
right? Because I was coming in to work on helping my folks set up a business.
Right.
And so immediately as I dove into this experience, it wasn't about earning my title. It was, this is the boss's son.
Oh, okay.
Right? I was the guy on the ground, but dad's signature on the check was what was making things move.
Okay.
And so while I was the guy on the ground, I overestimated my importance in the entire scheme of things. And I allowed myself to get caught up in this hype of being the boss. I'm the guy who tells you what to do and how to move and where to go and what to do and how to act and all of that stuff. Yet I didn't know how to act.
Okay.
I didn't know where to go and I didn't know how to move.
Testify.
It was one of the harshest learning experience. And when you talk about humility, the way that I had to experience humility in those 2 years was the biggest learning experience of my life because, first of all, you know how difficult it is to operate a business when your employees don't like you? Right?
Yeah, I have one in Uganda.
You out here, not you, because I own it, man, and this is my story, right?
No.
So I was out here acting like a young, privileged, entitled asshole,
right?
Thinking that because I came from the U.S. and things move a different way over there, I understood how they needed to work,
right?
And so through that experience of realigning my understanding of the world, realigning my understanding of what it means to actually be a boss, to be the type of a person that somebody wants to run through a brick wall for, as opposed to waking up dreading the fact that they have to go to work for you. I that was huge for me. That was huge for me. So the cultural shock of understanding how the get it done now mentality doesn't work.
Bro,
when you're communicating to the people who work with you and take instructions from you, understanding how to be more tactful and more gracious in accepting the losses and the failures that I encountered here. That was everything to me. And it equipped me now for chapter 2 when I came back in 2011, because now I had the benefit of hindsight and I had the benefit of understanding all of the mistakes that I had made before. So when I came back in 2011, I overcorrected. I overcorrected in the way of, I was now so humble. I was now so just willing to give of myself to the point where I was no longer looked at as somebody who was this guy. Oh, look at this guy. He thinks he knows everything he needs. Now it's like, oh, look at this guy. Let me take advantage of what this guy is offering, because this guy named Agaba wants to come here and tell me that he has all of these skills, all of this expertise, and all of this passion to get into business here. And he's willing to do whatever it takes in order to benefit me so that I can just give him a helping hand. So let me test his limit of how much he's willing to do for me. And that became the first year of my life here. The first actually 2 years of my life here in UG. It was me figuring out who I could trust from the perspective of, I have so much to offer and I have so much enthusiasm to give, but people are not looking at me from the perspective of mutual exchange of value. They just want to extract value from me, and whatever happens to me, be damned. So I would say for me, that was the critical piece. On top of everything that Greg said and on top of everything that Maintain said in terms of knowing people, building your networks, understanding how to move in this city and how to gather information from the right people in the right way, establishing a measure of humility about yourself, but also understanding that you kind of have to throw everything that you thought you knew away. And rebuild your understanding of how to move, because this environment is just totally foreign to what anything that you've ever experienced before in your life. So yeah, for me, that was the real thing, was learning how to trust people, learning how to calibrate my bullshit filter in a way that I am now no longer subject to people trying to take advantage. If anything, now I have the upper hand in negotiations. I now have the upper hand in situations. So that I always feel like I'm getting the best deal that I possibly can. So and I think another piece, particularly as it now takes shape in my life now, is, I'm embarking on a whole new venture with agribusiness. I'm embarking on a whole new venture with farming. I never looked at myself 5-6 years ago as somebody who would even think about farming as
me also.
That thing, which I'm going to sink my teeth into and really say, you know what, I'm going to be the best at this that I can be. We always want to think about technology and innovation and that fast moving thing that lets us feel like we've brought something shiny and impressive and brand new, as opposed to going back into the fundamentals of what grounds society, right? Like Greg said earlier, the population growth in this country is one that allows anybody who invests intelligently in agribusiness to be positioned to have the most successful future. And for me, it's no longer about the vanity of saying I came up with a great idea and I'm the first to do this or I'm the best to do that. I'm here to create generational wealth, and I know where it exists. Bravo. I know where to dig, how deep I need to dig. I know how hard I need to grind in order to find it. And I'm ready. And so I think that learning experience is something that I'm very grateful for. And it's not something that I would have experienced had I stayed in the US. And by now I'd probably be a VP of something, earning in the 6 figures, doing great for myself according to conventional standards. But would I have ownership of anything? Would I have a legacy that I could leave behind for my kids and for my nephews who, I want to also make sure are good? So yeah, it's night and day. It's completely different.
Wow. This is the episode.
Yeah, man, he took everything I wanted to say.
Yeah.
He did it better than me.
Exactly.
It's about time. But
wait, Osha, I have a question for Greg. What's the one challenge you've seen both in East Africa and West Africa? Like the one common denominator in both regions?
I think it all comes down to people, really. Because in West Africa, I think the irony there, right? You know the old adage, the grass is greener on the other side, right? Mm-hmm. But it's really not the case at all. If you water the grass on your side, it can also get green.
That's a bar.
And so
that's a bar.
It's true, right?
That's a bar.
The thing is, when you get to West Africa, well, I can only speak. I've never been to Nigeria. I would love to visit, but I can speak about Ghana, right? It's the same thing. Like if you find a proper network, if you find like-minded people, and if you understand the ebbs and flows of how there's Ghanaian time. And there's, of course, New York time, right? And I was having this conversation with someone who was telling me how the pace in Johannesburg, South Africa work. I'm like, yeah, it might seem fast to you, but for someone who's lived in New York for 22 years, your minute, I guarantee is not going to be quicker than a New York minute. So, but understanding like when you get, whether here on this side or on the West side, I think the true challenge is just finding people that, number one, because initially, here's the secret that I discovered early because I had good people like Tina and Dr. Yassine behind the scene. Initially, for me, you know, I learned very quickly that if I needed to negotiate on land, I would never go for myself. That I would let Tina go. They would both go, and they would engage in the initial conversation. And then I had to learn to trust that these people wouldn't take advantage of my lack of experience or knowledge on the ground. And so it's the same thing. But when you're a foreigner, it's almost like being, you know, though a lot of us come from humble beginnings, right? It's very difficult to make friends. Right? Because you don't really know who want to be your friend because they want to be your friend. Or they want to just be your friend to see what they can get from you, as Gab mentioned earlier, right? So learning to navigate that experience, right? Like, are you really cool with me because you want to see me succeed? Or you really want to just be able to dig into my pocket and play, you know, on the sympathies of, you know, what people tend to do here when you're new to the country. So I think that's the unique aspect of it, right? No matter where you go. But if you suck at making friends in America, you're not going to all of a sudden become great at making friends on the continent. It's still going to be a challenge for you.
It's going to be hard.
But then getting out of your comfort zone and understanding that there's no room for pride. If you need help, you have to ask for help. And quite often the local folks who you don't think really want to roll with you like that, those are going to be the ones that are going to come to your rescue. You know, it's just a matter of just understanding you can't just open the tent to everybody at once, but then you just have to vet people and you treat people how they treat you. And if they see that you're real, right? Quick side story. When I first got to the village, many of our neighbors didn't really like us very much because a lot of them didn't have their land titles. And then the owners with the titles were basically selling to new investors like myself. Yeah. So they didn't see the landlord, the former landlord, as the enemy. They saw me as the foreigner coming, pushing them off their land, even though I paid for the title itself, right? But then one of my neighbor's daughter had been sick. And so we went there to negotiate about another opportunity. And my doctor here, he can attest to this. This girl had malaria and typhoid, right? She was like in thriving pain. So even before I said anything to the actual owner of the property we were looking at buying, this girl was laying there. I said, you know what? Take her to the hospital. And I pulled the mother aside. Tina translated, whatever's wrong with her, please just take her in. You let me know whatever the bill turns out to be. Lo and behold, we ended up not doing business with the family at that time. Fast forward to almost 2 years later. the land that we absolutely need to have because we were about to open a factory just happened to belong to that family. And you know what that guy told me? He said, I will never sell my land to anybody but you, because I remember the day that my daughter was sick. I didn't have the money to take her to the hospital. You didn't ask me for anything. And you, out of the kindness of your heart, you did something that I can never forget. Mm-hmm. So when the time comes to sell this land, I don't care how much they offer me, who it comes from. Unless you turn it down first, I'm not selling to anybody. Mm-hmm. So that goes to show you, if you treat people with respect, if you humble yourself, it's not about how much money you have. It's not about where you come from. It's just how do you manage relationship and how do you present yourself to people. Mm-hmm. And if they see that you're real recognize real no matter where you are. Mm-hmm. And then it's just a matter of just taking it from there.
Yeah. Wow.
It's a beautiful
well
story.
said. Guys, this is the episode. This is it for the channel. But yeah, I think this is the perfect way to end the episode, unless Oshay would like to say something.
You skipped me the whole time. This last one. Remember? I just say I didn't. No, not you. That's her fault. But no, this is the last thing I want to say is yeah, get him laughing, man. Get him. Get him on the camera. Look at him.
I'm a handsome man.
Talk the whole episode.
This camera on my face.
Yeah, man.
You might get your followers up.
I'm not worried about you. But so for me,
These two.
they've answered everything in great detail, and better in many ways, better than what I would have done if I was by myself here. So the one thing I would think is a challenging thing here is because most Americans or even Ugandans who live in the diaspora, and you come back, you're told that this is an easier way of life for you. So you're told like it's cheaper, you have more time to do things, you don't have to be in the rat race, which that is true. And in some place like here, where the weather usually is nice, you know, you got DJ Maintain calling you to come to the drop in Munyanga. You know, a Gaba, you know, he's known in the city, you know what I mean? He's a superstar and everything. And, you know, you're just out and you're just on the boat, you feel free. You know, it's you come from America, you're going to there's something going on here every night. And then in comparisons to America, where a lot of Americans now are not, you know, because of COVID and before that, most people don't have friends like in the 80s and 90s where you meet up with your friends. That's why a lot of men are so lonely and stuff. You go out and do things. America is not like that as it used to be. But Uganda is still like that. To do business, you're going to have to meet up with people physically. You know, you have to talk to people. You have to pitch it. So it's still a very old fashioned. I like it's an analog way of doing things to us in the States. So when you get to that, you're like, wow, man, I'm going to the club. Ain't nobody fighting. You know, people ain't tripping. You want to get out. And then you can find yourself like, if you're still there's two kind of repats. The retired people are very rich, or those who still need to earn. I'm in the age where I still need to earn, right? So if you still need to earn, the myth is that you don't have to do a lot of whole work here, and you do. You have to do a lot more work than in America. So I work almost every morning until maybe 7 or 8. Like today, the podcast, I woke up to work. Like I woke up and then you were here at 1. So I'll have like 4 or 5 hours of sleep. And then, you know, you have to do the podcast and come back again after that and go back into the night shift work. If you have visitors, things like that. So you will be doing a lot of work, and because you have things you need to solve in any business, but because of infrastructure, business like we run here, it's a lot of effort to have this podcast look like this. So you need to figure out, what do you need? What skills do you need? All of that. And you can't do that. You know, a lot of people think like I could just have a business and somebody will manage it and I'm going to get rich. That's not, you're going to be involved, not in everything, because I don't run administration anymore at all. You guys run administration. But I'm involved to a certain point where I come in and see if something's been done. So that's the first thing. You will be working more than before. And then also, for me, I can say in 2021 and 2022, when Kinganda was not really so relevant, I didn't get so many people at that time wanting to work with me. But now, since we're doing a little bit better now, and you start getting more people trying to work with you, and like you said, some of these people, you don't know who they are. Some of them can even be Americans. I mean, you know how Greg in Agaba will tell you I'm very standoffish too. So even with Americans, is it true? I'm very standoffish.
Yes.
So I don't know you. I won't fuck with you. That's just me. But you get people that want to reach out to you or work with you because of what they think that you can do or are capable of doing, and that gets worse because what I've noticed here is when you can do things, people expect more of you to do more of that. People depend on you more. And if you've never dealt with that, that might be something that's difficult because, again, to the whole point, people will make you feel good about yourself, gassing you up, making you feel like you're somebody that you're really not. And on a small scale, this is really nothing where we're at now, but somebody can make you think that it's really big and it's not, right? So you still need to be able to say, like every day in the morning, I told the guy yesterday, I wake up with a chip on my shoulder in this country. You know, and the third thing is you're going to do a lot of stuff and nobody appreciates what you really can do. So if you're that kind of person that needs self-accolades and pats on the back, yeah, you need to understand that that's not what's going to happen. You're going to do a lot of nice things, a lot of great things, and nobody may, but one or two people say thank you. We were doing farming. We had produced, I think, the most farming episodes of 2021 during lockdown. We had got farmers grants and everything, and we were invisible. So you need, yes, going all across Uganda. So invisibility for what you do is going to be there. But again, you need to put in the work. And this is not just, that bullshit work that you guys think that you guys do. I'm talking about like, can you work 500 days straight or 600 days straight? I don't know if many of you can do that. Can you do that? Yeah, I mean, like, can you work every day, the whole entire month, and not go? There's days I don't even go outside. Can you do that? And if you can't, it's a skill you need to build up to. You have to push yourself because it's, that's what it takes to be somebody. Because you got somebody that's, eventually right now you might be the new frontier, but if there's money there, somebody's going to be coming down breathing down your neck. So, and then also another thing too is, here's the biggest part, reinvesting into the business. I always talk about this personally. Here, reinvestment is much more important because of the style of business you run. If you're in technology, it costs a lot of money to get things here. And to keep your productivity up, you need, skills and you need capital. And it's not always money. So it's very easy to see people here that are in business doing very well and their stuff is still the same. They're not a good studio. They don't have good equipment. They don't have anything good. And you're like, well, they can do that. Then why can't I? But if you're an American, people expect you to be better than those people. That's the thing. When they see that you're an American, and a lady told me, oh shit, you're an American, you can't put out the same quality of stuff that somebody here does. So they're going to associate you with being on a better standard. So just know that, your work is cut out for you. You're going to have to wear a lot of hats at once, which we can get into in different episodes. We can't solve all this in one episode. But the fact is that, don't look at people taking pictures, and a lot of repats will do this. They'll come to Africa, take a lot of pictures on the beach, drinking Mai Tais and stuff. And their life is so much better. See, this is what you're missing in America. But you can't do that and be rich. This is this life of entrepreneurship. It's for the real. It's not for frauds. Because, somebody like me, I'm a dog. Like roof, roof. You know what I mean? Like roof, 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 roof. I don't talk this life. I'm in the game for real. Every day. Like I'm in the game to win. You have to make me go to sleep sometimes. So if that's not you, it needs to become you before you get here. Don't come here. I don't want you to just come in here losing your money, talking about, because you want to go to Entebbe Beach and you go to the drop a maintain. Well, he getting paid to do that. Are you? So if you have the mentality, I'm going to come here and I'm going to work all the time and there's nothing that you think that is cheap. Uganda is not cheap. It's not. You start spending them shillings and the next thing you know, you spend like $1,000. So just know that you need to come visit our community in the REPAT. It's not like it is in Ghana, but it's getting better. We have an event on May 27th. Greg will be there. He's serving the meat. Agaba, he might bless us with his appearance. We don't know, you know what I mean? But it depends on how you feel. Maintain. So we're getting better, and hopefully we can start answering more questions like this as it gets better. But it's just going to be, it's hard. It's not easy. It's hard. You'll have some fun in there, but it's hard work. Can you be somebody somewhere else? Stop being that person. Come into a whole new society where you're nobody again. No matter, it doesn't matter how much money you got. You got to prove yourself again. So can you do that? Do you want to do that? If the answer is yes, this is for you. If it's not, maybe you might want to check out Thailand or something like that.
Asia or something. But yeah, this is the episode, guys. How do you feel?
I feel enlightened.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
How nice. Guys, how do you feel?
I feel great. Like I said, it's been a pleasure to sit next to Greg and get an opportunity to listen and learn from him.
Mm-hmm.
This is just the beginning of an acquaintance that I think will turn into a friendship and a collaboration that will stretch far beyond anybody's wildest imagination. So
I want to get
this is a blessing. This is
some
a blessing
percentages off of the connection.
Greg, how do you feel about this one?
I feel blessed. I'm glad I was able to make this today. And the schedule had to be shifted, but I wouldn't miss this episode for anything.
Well, thank you.
So thank you.
Okay, guys, tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, at DJ Maintain on all social media platforms.
Mm-hmm. Greg?
Ours is Add Value Farm UG. TikTok, everywhere.
Yeah.
So.
Follow me at Master Gabs on Instagram, Twitter, and at A2A_podcast, Allergic to Average podcast. Please tune in, check it out. It's good stuff coming through.
Okay. Usher, the event.
Oh yeah, May 27th, we're celebrating Africa Day in collaboration with Nilotic Connection, the Nilotic Connection?
Nilots.
Yeah, Nilotic Connection and another brother, Beatrice Safari. So we're going to be at 16A Lathuli Avenue, May 27th. I think, when does the time start? It starts from like midday?
Midday.
Until like 3 a.m., something like that. Something crazy. So we'll be out there. We'll have a lot of fun. This is like, so we're sponsoring and they're organizing. So this is the first time like, we're trying to get into the event sort of space, and Brother Agaba, we've been talking about trying to do more things for the diaspora. And so we'll be trying to have these like every quarter and things, just trying to build the community, because there's too many people coming here, and I'm hosting people almost every month now. Like I have 3 Americans here now. Last month I had 1. The month before we had Wood and Maya. Then we had Brandon in February. So guys, no more. I think I got, maybe if Austin's gonna come, I could take Austin, Holloman in June, but then after that,
no mas.
Yeah.
I have a suggestion for a special feature.
Okay.
Brand new. It should be announced today. I need DJ Maintain to come through and give us like a skincare clinic. Because
It's glowing, right?
This brother's skin is looking majestic right now. This brother out here looking like, Caribbean butterscotch. And I'm like, bro, like,
Mercedes looking younger.
What mixtures are you cooking up in your kitchen, man? Like, what mask are you using, bro? I need to know, man. I need to know.
Yeah, let him tell us. And yeah, guys, you can follow us at King and the Nation. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. Also subscribe to the Pan-African Dating Show. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you.